This is the GLP-1 supplement market. It's worth $1.2 billion in 2024. It has grown at about 17% per year and be worth about $4.8 billion in 2020 and 2033. So big market now, growing quickly, and it's really on the back of all the interest shown in these anti-obesity drugs.
Hello, you're watching Proactive. I'm joined by OptiBiotix Health Chief Executive Stephen O'Hara. Stephen, very good to speak with you today. For investors new to OptiBiotix, what problem are you solving, and how does SlimBiome fit into your wider platform?
It's good to see you, and just sort of set the scene in terms of myself and the company. So I'm the founder and CEO of OptiBiotix. I found a number of companies and taken those to exit either by selling to a large corporate or listing on the stock market. So I've listed 3 companies on the stock market. In terms of OptiBiotix, it's a company on the AIM market, a London Stock Exchange, and as we'll cover later, we recently joined the OTC market. We're a microbiome company, but people don't buy science. So we're a microbiome company that produces products that meet an unmet need in healthcare. And in reference to your question, I'll give you some quite good examples. SlimBiome is one of our first products, and people will be familiar with how this works now, but maybe weren't familiar the way it worked a number of years or so ago. It's a patented ingredient which reduces hunger and food cravings. So if you can reduce your hunger and your cravings for food, then you stop eating so much food, and the consequence, you lose weight. It's won multiple awards. It's in products all around the world. It's recently been launched actually in the US, in America's #1 weight management product called Hydroxycut, and it's a new extension of that brand called Hydroxycut Hunger Control. So really emphasising that particular point, that reduces hunger. We have a second product called WellBiome that impacts upon gut health. Again, a very, very topical product, and just go to Marks and Spencer's in this country or look across a lot of the literature and influences in the US, and you'll see gut health is a really important area. And just finally, this is looking towards the future, because we develop products that are here and now on sale around the world. But we've got 2 other products that will be of particular interest for investors. One is a product called SweetBiotix, which is a sweet fiber. So it's like sugar, but it's a fiber. And think of the health benefits of that. And just look at Coca-Cola and Pepsi and look at what they're doing in terms of the prebiotic sodas, they call them, and the size of that market. And then finally, in terms of products, we have a product which we call, a range of products really, called microbiome modulators. And they're really one for the future. They're ahead of their time, because they are a range of ingredients that change the microbiome in a very targeted way. So as we can understand the microbiome more, we understand that the microbiome impacts upon the use of drugs. So if, for example, you have a drug, you can improve its tolerance and safety, its efficacy by changing the microbiome. It also impacts upon some of the cancers and the diseases or chronic illnesses such as Parkinson's and autism. So something for now and something for the future, and growing very, very quickly.
In fact, you just announced a number of orders from Milang Trading in Taiwan. What did they tell you about demand for SlimBiome?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. We've only been in Asia for a couple of years, and we've got this big order from Milang in Taiwan for 24 metric tons, which is pretty substantive. And we also have got a lot of growth all across Asia. What this tells us is that we've got a market that's growing. And part of the reason behind this is that a couple of years or so ago, a number of drugs were produced, so-called the GLP-1 drugs. So these are drugs like Ozempic and semaglutide, and these then will become tablets. We go into 2026, 2027, and they work by reducing hunger and cravings. And companies like Milang in Taiwan and all across Asia, and increasingly now in the US, people are looking for alternatives to the GLP-1 drugs. And that's for a number of reasons. The first reason is that they want to take a drug. Second reason, they can't afford to take a drug. So these are often £200 to £300 per month, whereas SlimBiome costs £25 per month. And I think finally, where we're seeing most growth is those people who've taken the drugs. They've got down to the target weight, and we know from the data, from the literature, from the publications, that about 75 to 80% of people who take these drugs actually put on weight over the following year and get back to their previous weight. So looking for alternatives to taking the drugs. So to stop this roller coaster that you sometimes get, this rebound, as they've now phrased it, in terms of taking these drugs. And this is a big market. It's worth $1.2 billion dollars. This is the GLP-1 supplement market. It's worth $1.2 billion in 2024. And it's grown at about 17% per year and be worth about $4.8 billion in 2020 and 2033. So big market now, growing quickly, and it's really on the back of all the interest shown in these anti-obesity drugs.
As you mentioned, Stephen, you started trading on the OTCQB market in the US at the tail end of last year. Why was that market important for OptiBiotix at this stage?
I think we need to explain to people really why we're on the OTC market, and very simply, it's a way of making our shares available to US investors, and this increases liquidity, which helps people buy and sell, and it helps all investors. And the way it works is that the US investor places trades in the US, and these are then settled on the home market and UK market. And part of the reason we've gone to the US, to OTC, is that there's a big interest in the microbiome in the US. It's an area that is a country that leads the microbiome research and development, and really pushing out the frontiers, both in terms of the anti-obesity drugs and the supplements we mentioned earlier, but also gut health. So that's very important to us. And I think this links into the fact that we launched in the US last year with Hydroxycut Hunger Control. So as we're taking more products to the US, then people become more aware of our products and become more aware of our company. So it's an ideal time to enter that particular market. More generically, US trades in the UK, so this is on the OTC market, increased over 40% last year. And so generically, there's a reason people look from the US, look to the UK. That's because many of our market, particularly the small caps, medium caps market, are seen as being undervalued from the US perspective. So we've got some good products. We're in the US. We've got a demand for our products in the US. And when people look at our company, based on our products, they'll see that we are very undervalued. So we think it'll be interesting to US investors.
Stephen, I hope you'll continue to keep us updated with your progress. Thank you very much for speaking with us today.
Thank you very much.
Stephen O'Hara, Chief Executive of OptiBiotix Health.